So far, I'm the only one.
Hey, Bernie.
Oh, good. Nice to have some
Hi.
company.
Welcome back.
Hi.
Yeah,
How's your French?
the south of France, above 95 degrees, was just a perfect setting.
It's
Was that
beautiful.
hot? Was
It's
that hot?
beautiful.
For a couple of days, it was really hot. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it gets crazy. We were in
But
Budapest a couple years ago. It was very hot.
yeah, but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful place where you
Yeah.
work. It's
Oh,
beautiful.
this is for sure. Oh, Nice and
Yeah.
Cannes
Up
and
in the
Monte
hills there,
Carlo.
all those winding
Beautiful.
roads. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tammy enjoyed herself?
Tammy went with a walker,
Oh,
and where
good.
she could, people were pretty amazed that she
Oh,
tried to
good
keep
for
up.
her.
Yeah, yeah.
Good.
She
Was
wanted
there
to go for a
shopping?
run. Huh?
Was there shopping? A lot.
Tell me, when you wake up in the morning, is there air to breathe? Are you kidding?
Good
We
analogy.
stayed an extra 2 days in Nice,
Oh,
as did Walter and Esty and Moshe Namira with us. Uh,
oh, nice.
and so there was plenty of time for extravagant purchases.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. How was the food?
Food is, oh, some of the restaurants are very nice in Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what was the name of that? For the middle of the 10-day, 8 days that we were there, we stayed 3 nights in Provence, out in the countryside, surrounded by forest. It was beautiful.
Wow.
A boutique hotel in the middle of nowhere.
What's that background noise? Do you hear some background?
Yeah, I'm sure.
What was the name of that called? Have you been to Provence? Hi, Peggy.
Hi, how are you?
Hello. Oh, hey, the sound in your computer is terrible.
Hi.
Mario, we're going to put you on probation unless you fix it up.
What did he do?
Boy is this? Whose boy is this?
That's
Yarny?
Kobe.
That's
Kobe.
likes,
That's Kobe.
he likes to attend my.
Oh, we have a Talmud
Yeah.
here. Whoa,
He gives the share
special
usually.
guest.
He's ready.
Okay. I guess Harold knows him from the other
Well, yeah.
story.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. Where are we holding? 'Cause it's been so long.
We're on Sefer Daniel, Perek Hey, Pasuk Yud Gimel.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Good,
Good,
Jim.
got it. Okay. We're good.
I have much further, but
Huh?
You think we went further? Well, we'll go back just a little bit, just to just,
okay.
just
all
to
right.
reacquaint everybody what we were doing. If you remember,
Wait, somebody's coming.
Belshazzar, who's the grandson of Nebuchadnezzar, has thrown a party, and they used some of the vessels from the Beis Hamikdash. And at the party, a writing is found on the wall. Nobody can interpret what the writing means. And they bring all the magicians and astrologers and everybody
Mhm.
try to interpret the writing on the wall, and nobody can interpret it. So, Pasuk Yud Gimel, Badan Daniel, who al Malka. Daniel is brought before the king. Ane Malka, and the king spoke, V'omer Daniel, and said to Daniel, Antu Daniel, you are Daniel, Dimin Bnei Galusa, from the exiles of the Jews who had been brought here, the Yehud, the Jewish exiles, the Haisi Malka Avim in Yehud, where so here it says father, but we already went through this. Really, Belshazzar is the son of Evil Mordech, who was the son of Nebuchadnezzar. So it's my grandfather who brought the exiles from Yehuda. So the Malbim says that this is praising Daniel because there were two exiles. The original exile that Nebuchadnezzar brought, and then later on, Nebuzaradan brought a lesser social strata. The initial exiles were very, very high level yichus, like the pasuk in, like it says in Esther, Asher Haglam Yushalayim and Hagolah Asher Haglasa Nebuchadnezzar Melech Bavel, and Belshazzar, according to this pshat, is learning it as a praise. Rav Sadia Gaon, some other of the Meforshim say that there was a tone of condescension. Like, are you Daniel? Meaning, it cannot be that he didn't know Daniel, because Daniel is a famous person in Babylonia. So some learn it as sort of a put down. Pasuk Yudal. Vishimet alach. I've heard about you. The Ruach Elohim bach, that the Spirit of God is in you. V'niaru, you have light. V'shachaltanu, that's like seichel, right? From the word seichel, shachaltanu. V'chachma yatira hishtakachas bach. You have extra wisdom is within inside of you. Pasuk Tesvav. Ucha'anhu alu kadmoi. Chakim ashpaya. In front of me have been brought many wise people, or claimed to be wise people. The kasva denayikron. And I brought them to try to explain this writing to me. What does it mean? Upishre, the psara, the interpretation, lodiani. And they have not been able to explain to me what is written and what it means. Pasuk Tet Zayin. V'anashi meidalach, but I've heard about you, the tikol pishrin lemishter, that you can interpret all interpretations. V'kitrin lemishra, and you can undo knots. That's like a linguistic term that you can solve difficult problems. So kain. So therefore, hain tikol ksava lemikra upishra lo dertani. If you can read the writing and explain to me what it means, agavna tilbash, you will wear the royal purple. V'amnicha didav al tzavarecha, and I'll put a golden chain on your neck. V'talsa b'malchusa tishlet, and you will rule over a third of the country. Meaning, I'm going to appoint 3 viziers who will be like governors, and you will be one of them. Okay. Pasuk Yud Zayin. Badein Daniel. So Daniel answers him. The Omar Kodamak, and he speaks in front of the king. Matan chalach leheaven. You keep your gifts. Uneviz bayasachol achronab. Give them to somebody else. But Biram, in actuality, ksava ekra lamaka, I will read the writing to the king. Upishra ahadiine, and I will interpret it for the king. Again, again, we learned 2 pshatim. One is that when he said, "Are you Daniel?" It was words of praise, and we also learned, "Are you Daniel?" are was like words of condescension. So some learn pshat that he's also sort of rejecting the gifts because he had felt put down upon. And Daniel, the Malbim says, didn't think that the reading the writing deserved a gift and deserved to be paid. If you remember, Daniel gave an eitzah to Nebuchadnezzar. He gave an eitzah to Nebuchadnezzar to give charity to the Jewish people. And that postponed the punishment of Nebuchadnezzar for a period of time. And in some ways, we discussed that was that considered like a sin for Daniel to do that. Here he's bending over backwards to show that he's not showing favor by accepting gifts. That's how some people want to learn about not accepting the gift here. Pasuk Yudches. Ant Malka, you are the king. However, Eloha Iloah, the God of the above, the great God above gave your grandfather a great kingdom to rule over. Daniel is going to be giving bad news to Belshazzar. So he begins by praising. Doesn't have any lack of covet for the king, and he's going to praise the Malchus of Bavel. That's how he gets started. On the other hand, he's also pointing out that this was a gift by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore even the gift of even the rule of Belshazzar is a gift. He doesn't have this koach of the Malchus by himself. Pasuk Yites. Umin revusa diavle, from this greatness that was given to Nebuchadnezzar, kol amima umoy v'lashon, all nations and languages, havuzan v'tchalim kadmoy, were fearful of him and were underneath his rule. Dihavitzava havakotel, who he wanted, he would kill. V'dihavitzave havimacha, who he wanted to strike, he would strike. V'dihavitzave havimorim, who he wanted to raise, he would raise. Nebuchadnezzar was a total king. His kingship was ema upachad on the whole world. The Gemara Masechta Shabbos Kuf Mem Tes Amud Beis says Kol Yomav Shalosa Rasha Lo Nimtzas Chopeb Kol Beria. In the times of Nebuchadnezzar throughout the world, nobody smiled, nobody laughed. To show the extent of the power of Nebuchadnezzar during his reign. Pasuk Chaf. Uchediram levavei. However, Nebuchadnezzar also became haughty. V'ruchi tikva lechazadah. So he was taken off of his throne, right? Hanchas min karsem achusa v'ikara hedemine, and the great glory was removed from him. Umin bnei enosha torid. He was banished from human society. He became like an animal. V'livavei mchevsa shaviv. He became like a dog. v'maradia midore, with wild animals like donkeys. Izba ketorin, he ate grass like cattle. Umital shmaya gishme, itztaba, and he had to drink and bathe in the dew and in the rain. Adi yada dishalat Elohai ila b'malchus enosha, until he was made to understand that it's Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu who rules over people, and who puts people in positions of royalty. Ulamin diyetz be'yahakim alei. So he goes over this whole story of what happened to Nebuchadnezzar. Pasuk Chav Beis. Ve'an bre Belshazzar, you, the son, Belshazzar, or the grandson, lo yishpalt levavach. You didn't learn from your grandfather Nebuchadnezzar. You have not lowered your heart or yourself. Kol kabel dichol dina yadata. Even though you knew everything that had happened to your grandfather, you should have learned a lesson. Chav Gimel. Va'almari shmaya hitromamta. You have been haughty and proudful against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Ulamane di beisa haisav kadamach. The kalim that was in his bias, the Beis HaMikdash, was brought in front of you. Va'ant v'rav Ravnacha, and you and your officers, your shegaltcha, your concubines, ulechenatech, and your wives, chamrish shasabam, drank wine from these kalim. V'lelohe kaspa v'dava, these silver and golden cups that were made for Hashem, nachasha parzla v'avna, not just gold and silver, but copper and steel, wood and stone, dilo chazim, v'lo shamim, that don't hear and don't speak, v'lo yadin, shabachta. You have prayed and worshipped these gods of silver and gold and copper and iron and stone and wood, and these things don't speak and they don't hear. This sounds like in Hallel. We one of the kapitlach in Hallel, we say you daven to gods that don't hear and that don't speak and that don't talk. Similar language to what Daniel is using here. And to the God that your soul, Hashem has given you your soul, you haven't given praise or given thanks to the Hashem who has created you and has given you a neshama. You haven't been deterred by the episode that occurred to your grandfather, Nebuchadnezzar. Pasuk Chavdalet. Badei min kadmoi. If you remember, when the writing occurred on the wall, they saw a hand writing it. So now Daniel tells Belshazzar, Badein min kadmoi shliach pasadiyada. He sent from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sent like a hand, uksavadana roshim, and has written this message to you. Udana ksavadi roshim. This is what is written. Menei tekel uparsin. This is the famous writing on the wall. Menei tekel uparsin. And Daniel's going to give us the interpretation of this. By the way, it's the Malach Gavriel whose ksav this was, according to the most Meforshim. Pasuk Chavav. Dino Pshar Milsa. This is the explanation. Menei, Mena Eloha Malchuscha V'Hashlama. The word Menei is from the word minyan, counting, right? So Hashem has counted the time of your kingship, and it's finished. Tonight it's going to finish. Tekel tekalta bimoznaya. You have been weighed in the scales, and you have been found wanting. That's a famous English saying. It's taken from Daniel. You've been found wanting. Rashi says, Zeu perusho nishkalta lefanav v'moznai v'nimtza es chaser mikol tzedakah. You've been weighed and you're found empty. Pras kavches prisas malchusacha. Your kingship has been broken. You know, the word pras means a piece, like prusa, like a piece of something, piece of bread. So pras means a piece, like to break something in half. So pras prisas malchusacha v'yavis lamadai uparas. And it's been given to the kingdom of Mede and the kingdom of Persia. So the writing on the wall is informing Belshazzar that his Malchus is ending and a new Malchus is beginning. Pasuk Chavtes. Badin Omer Belshazzar. Belshazzar understood that this is a correct interpretation. So he immediately gives an order, V'yilbishu Daniel Argavna. They dressed Daniel in the royal purple, in Argaman. V'amnicha didav al tzavare, and a golden necklace is placed on his neck. V'chrizi aloy, and they announced, Dilahevi shalit plus malchusa, that he shall become one of the three governors of the country. Even though all of these harsh things were said against him. Belshazzar didn't understand that this was going to happen really tonight. He thought it was going to, that's how the Malbim explains. And he thought it's going to go, and he wanted to use Daniel's wisdom and put him into that position. Or that he was like giving him these gifts so that Daniel would go and daven to be Mevatel the Gzeira. That's how Rav Sadia Gaon learns. So, Pasuk Lamed, Bei Belela Kotel Belshazzar Malka Kazda. On that night, Belshazzar was killed. So some say there was an internal palace coup that people from his entourage, understanding that Daniel is usually correct, they went ahead and killed him. And they cut off his head and brought him to the Persian camp. They were outside, and then the Persians came and took control. That's how Josephus explains. Rashi also, if you remember, the parak started that day, Belshazzar and his army had defeated the Persians and the Medes. But that night, they regrouped. They returned at night, caught the Babylonians by surprise, and conquered Babylonia and killed Belshazzar that night. Now, Yirmiyah Navi had a nevuah where it says lefi meleos lebavel shivim shona efkara bavel. Yirmiyahu had predicted that Malchus Bavel was going to come to an end after 70 years. And that is from the time of Nebuchadnezzar conquering Assyria and sitting on the throne of Bavel. And this night is 70 years after that time. We're going to see that 18 in the 18th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign is when he actually took Tzidkiyahu Hamelech into Golus. First, it happened in the 7th year, the first when he took Yoyachin, then 11 years later he took Tzidkiyahu. So it's going to be, there's going to be a partial Pekida a year later, not now, but a year later, after Daryavish, who's now taking over, dies, Darius, Koresh is going to make an announcement that Klal Yisrael can go back to Eretz Yisrael. That's 70 years from the first exile. But we're going to see 18 years from now, when after Esther and Achashverosh, and they have a child, Daryavish Hasheni, and he is going to reinstitute the building of the Beis Hamikdash. So the renewal of the Beis Hamikdash comes in stages. First, Koresh makes an announcement. Some people start going back, but they can't succeed in building the Beis Hamikdash because the Shomronim in Eretz Yisrael, which we're going to learn in Sefer Ezra and Nehemiah, prevent them from doing it until Daryavish Hasheni, Achashverosh and Esther's son, allow them to completely start rebuilding the Beis Hamikdash. By the way, this night that we've described, this night Belshazzar is killed, it's Leil Pesach. And that's why one of the songs that we sing at the end of the Seder, we say, Az Rov Nisim Hifleta BaPesach. Mistakir B'Kli Kodesh Nerag Bo Balayla. That the person who became drunk using the holy vessels was killed that night. So this night is Leil Pesach. The Bnei Yissaschar says that we have to think. Because we were saved from Mitzrayim, there's a yontif established, Chag HaPesach. And when Klal Yisrael was saved from Haman, which were the Xeres of Modai Paras, we were given a yontif of Purim.
Purim's not a yontif.
It's not a yontif like Pesach, but it's a yontif. We read the Megillah, we make a Suda. And then when we were saved by the Greeks, right, we have a yontif of Hanukkah. And then, God willing, when Mashiach comes, there'll be another Kviyas yontif. Yet there's no yontif with the downfall of Malchus Bavel here when Daryavish dies. So how does the Bnei Yissaschar learns? That these Daled Malchios, Bavel, Porus Umadai, Yavan, and Rome, they're opposing HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Yud Kei Vav Kei. Says the Bnei Yissaschar in a mystical way, if you take the names of Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the Geulas Mitzrayim is the Yud from Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's why Vayikutsu Mipnei Bnei Yisrael in Geulas Mitzrayim, the Kutsu Shel Yod. And this Geula from Bavel is also from the same Yud. So Gulas Mitzrayim and the saving from Bavel is the same letter. And that's why there's this connection between the fall of Bavel and happening on Pesach, which is why we have these various Zmiros that we sing at the end of the Haggadah relating to the fall of Bavel. That's the Bnei Yissaschar. Okay. Now we come to another famous episode that relates to Daniel. Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel being thrown into the lion's den and being saved from the lions. Perek Vav. Before we start, any comments, questions on what we've learned so far in Perek Hey? So Dayavish Madog Kabil Malchusa, Kvar Shnin Shisin V'Tartin. When Darius, the Mede, right, we're going to see there's going to be somebody called Darius the Persian. That's Daryavish Hasheni. That's the son of Achashverosh and Esther. We're going to see him 18 years from now. But now this is Darius the Mede. There was a Median Empire and then there was a Persian Empire. The Median Empire didn't last very long. And he was 62 years old. Give this for a minute. So Chazal tell us that Darius was born when Nebuchadnezzar entered the Beis Hamikdash during the time of Yoyachin. Now, the exile of Yoyachin took place in the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign. And we know that that Darius took over exactly 70 years after Nebuchadnezzar came to the throne. So we subtract, if he's born when Golus Yoyachin, and Golus Yoyachin took place in the 8th year of Nebuchadnezzar's reign, so he's 62 years old now. That's a chazal. That's how we learn in Seder Olam. Shvar Kadam Daryavish. Daryavish was happy. V'hakim al-machusei lachshrapnei meve esrim, to appoint 120 satraps. A satrap is like a governor. So at this time, there are 120 states in the Median Empire. Soon, there's going to be 127, right? After Koresh, we're going to have Achashverosh, and the Megillah starts with Vahivi Mech Achashverosh Hamolech Mahod Vakush Sheva Umea Ve'esrim Umedina, 127 states. But at this time, there's only 120. And each one has a satrap, a governor. However, above these 120 are viziers. And we said, Sarchin Tlasa, the Daniel Chadmenon, and Daniel was one of them. The Leheven Achashrapna Ilon. The Achashrapnas, who are these satraps, give advice to the viziers. Yavin lo taima, umakal 11 nozik. It's all to protect the king, that the king does not fall into any harm. So the Meforshim tell us, being 62 years old at that time is considered being very aged. And that's why he needed all these assistants to help him rule such a large empire. Now, Adam Daniel Dana, Hava mitnatzach al sarchaya va'achashabnai. Because of Daniel's wisdom, he oversaw all of these viziers and governors. Kol kabel di ruach yatirabe, because he had that extra ruach. Ulmaka osis lakmuse al kol malchusa. And therefore the king wanted to appoint Daniel to be in charge of the whole country. Adin Sarachya Vachshrabnatya. However, that's jealousy. The viziers and the satraps have in boin ilah. Ilah is a libel. Lashkachala Daniel mitzad malchusa. They wanted to fight something public corruption in the government. But they could not find any problem. He was loyal. He was trustworthy. And they couldn't find any governmental corruption. That's what they looked for first. For example, bribes, misappropriation of public funds. The Malbim says they looked for personal misconduct in his private life. They couldn't find anything. So they hatched a plot. Adin Gurva ile Chamrin. Dilonish lahashkach Daniel Dana Kolila. We're not going to find any problem with Daniel in his daily practice, but we know that Daniel worships his God, and we're going to trip him up through his private worship. What's going to happen is they're going to ask the king to declare a decree that somehow will make Daniel have to choose between being a citizen, a loyal citizen of the country, versus somebody who worships his God. This is something we should, right? Dual loyalty. American Jews have been dealing with this since they've been in America. But this is what they're going to try to do. So Adin Srachya va'Abdrapna Elaine, Hargishu al Malka, they gathered, the viziers and the governors gathered around the king. They said to him, Daryavish Malka la'amin chaya. Darius, you shall live forever. By gathering in a crowd, so Daniel, of course, was not with them. They were hiding all this from Daniel. By having a big crowd, it makes it not so conspicuous that Daniel is absent. And such a large crowd will also perhaps influence the king to sign without thinking too much. If there'd been a smaller group, certainly if Daniel was there, he probably would have asked Daniel's advice. So what happens in Pasuk Ches? Isyatu kosarche malchusa, all the viziers, Signaya v'achrabnaya advarya, the nobles, the satraps, the advisors, the governors, upachsa l'kaima kiamalka, we affirm the king's law. Ulatakfa esar, and we want to strengthen it. Di kol diivei ba'u min kol elav enosh, who will ever make a request of God or man ad yomin tlasin for 30 days, lahan minach malka, without first requesting it from you, Yisramei Lagov Aryavasa will be thrown into the pit of lions to be consumed by lions. So the decree is that before anybody is to ask either another person's advice or to pray to a god, they first have to come and ask the king himself. Pasuk Tes. Please approve this prohibition and write it. Because you know that when in the laws of Media and Persia, once you write it, it can never be reversed. Does that sound familiar, everybody?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, in Esther, we have the same thing. That once Haman gets Achashverosh to send out a decree, right? It says, well, we can't call back the decree. So what they issue a new decree that the Jews could stand in battle against their enemies, but they couldn't reverse the decree. Here we see the same law because it's called the law of Mede in Persia. And here already we see it in the times of Daniel. Kol kalbudino malka daryavish risham ksavavesara. So the King Darius inscribed the writing and he issued this prohibition. Pasuk Yud Aleph. But Daniel Kadeyadodi Roshim Ksiva. Daniel, of course, found out what was written. And Kosva, the Russian Kosva, he understood what was written. All of say. So he went to his home. V'chavin psichile balisa neged Yerushalayim. His windows were opened facing Jerusalem. V'zimnin plus b'yoma hu barech al birkoi. 3 times a day was his practice to bow, umitzale davin, umoide korban, and to either confess or to praise in front of his God. Kol kabel diava ovid min kadmas dana. This is something he did every day, and now he did it as well this 3rd day. So a lot to learn from this pasuk. The Alshich says normally he was davening in shul, in a base knesses. And openly, it sounds like he wanted to perhaps continue observing this decree, and he figured that by davening privately, he would pray in secret, and he didn't want to be opposed to that. That's how the Ma'anei Yeshua learns. The Alshich says also that normally he would daven publicly, but now he davened, but he was still keeping up his obligation to daven to Hashem. Now, we know that tefillah is not a mitzvah where you have the rule of Yahareg V'Yavar. Yahareg V'Yavar is the rule that you have to allow yourself to be killed before violating it. And that's murder, sexual immorality, and avodah zarah. In those 3 sins, if someone says, perform this act, or I'll kill you, you're supposed to allow yourself to be killed. But by all other mitzvahs, there's a principle of v'chai bahem. You're supposed to live with the mitzvahs, not to die by them. So for pikuach nefesh, you're allowed to violate it. So this is not a case of Yahareg V'Yavar. And there's another rule that if it's a time of shmad, where the government is trying to get Jews to convert to a different religion, then all mitzvahs, you're supposed to martyr yourself, even if they tell you to wear a different shoelace. Even minhagim, when it comes to shmad. But here, Darius was not trying to convert Jews here. So he was certainly not obligated. He might not even be permitted to jeopardize his life over a mitzvah that you're not required to do it. So the Malbim says he just miscalculated. It wasn't really a conscious act of martyrdom. He didn't realize how dangerous his actions were. If the danger is not apparent, it's permitted to endanger yourself for the sake of the mitzvah, because the mitzvah will protect you. That's one way to learn. But the Beis Yosef and Yoredeya, the Chinuch, the Shach, others permit a person giving up his life even for regular mitzvahs. And they refer to these actions of Daniel as proof of that principle, that you're allowed to give up your life even for regular mitzvah. Now, what is this business with having open windows? So the Gemara in Brachos says it's to arouse devotion by seeing the sky. And you know Hashem lives in the sky. Another example of that is when we wear tchelis and our tzitzis, that we're supposed to think of Hashem. Rabbeinu Yonah says the light creates a pleasant atmosphere, helping you to pray with devotion. We have a din, the Rambam says, that when you daven, you should daven facing Jerusalem, like Daniel did. Now, what about this Daniel practice of davening 3 times a day? So that's not a Torah obligation, but it seems that this was already a custom in the time of Daniel. The Rambam in Hilchos Tfilah states that you only have to daven once a day. The Chachamim made a mitzvah d'Rabbanan of doing it 3 times a day. The Ramban, in fact, says you don't even have to daven every day. In times of need, you have to daven. The Rambam also brings that Ezra and the Anshe Knesset Gdola said that you have to daven 3 times a day. And so therefore, the Anshe Knesset Gdola is many years after Daniel. So perhaps Daniel had a private custom. Now, this pasuk also tells us that Daniel fell to his knees. Now, we had another example of this. We learned about Shlomo HaMelech. He also, when he davened at the Beis HaMikdash, that tefillah, he was also on his knees. But it looks like the custom had been removed. Now it says umatzla umoide, that he prayed and gave thanks. So we know in our Shmona Esrei, the first 3 brachos are giving praise, and the last 3 should also contain words of thanks. And in the middle, you have you ask all your questions. You ask all your personal requests. Okay. I'm going to stop here. I think this is a good place to stop. A little bit of perils of Pauline, where we leave with a little cliffhanger. And let's remember that we're stopping when Daniel goes home and davens. And we'll pick up Pasuk Yud Beis next week when we learn, God willing, we'll learn Sunday night, 8 o'clock. Okay? Questions,
Thank you.
comments, questions or comments or any other?
Why do you think though this thing on the knees? I mean, it sounds like a Christian thing. Where does it come to then?
No, Shlomo Melech davened on his knees. Al Birkayim, like
But
like
it
Rosh Hashanah, when we go to our knees, we normally don't fall on our face. We don't go to our knees except
Right.
certain times. But we did it. Anachnu korim u'mishtavim.
But that's like we do it on Yom Tov. I mean, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I mean, it's
Right,
not
but
every
so
day.
it's a Jewish practice. It's not a Christian practice.
But like, yeah, they're saying went on his knees. Not, I don't know.
But we got on these things.
Well, we only do it occasionally. This is like saying he davened all the time like that.
And not only that, the Meforshim say that after Shlomo Melech, we don't see that this was a normal minhag, And that Daniel may have had this as a private personal minhag. It was not a general minhag at the time. So Esti is correct in sensing that this was not a normal minhag. But it's not a Christian. The Christians took as everything. They took it from us.
Okay.
Yeah.
But today they do that, okay.
Kobe,
Thank you, Kobe. Thank
Kobe,
you, Kobe.
Shkoyach, Kobe.
Kobe, good job.
He listened the whole time.
Yeah.
He's so tired, the poor guy.